Hello students, today we will discuss on World Heritage Movement. The brief history, the idea of creating an international movement for protecting heritage emerged after World War I. The 1972 Convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage developed from the merging of two separate movements. The first focusing on the preservation of cultural sites and the other dealing with the conservation of nature. Preserving cultural heritage. The event that aroused particular international concern was the decision to build the Aswan High Dam in Egypt, which would have flooded the valley containing the Abu Simbel temples, a treasure of ancient Egyptian civilization. In 1959, after an appeal from the governments of Egypt and Sudan, UNESCO launched an international safeguarding campaign. Archaeological research in the areas to be flooded was accelerated. Above all, the Abu Simbel and Philae temples were dismantled, moved to dry ground and reassembled. The campaign cost about $80 million, half of which was donated by some 50 countries, showing the importance of solidarity and nations' shared responsibility in conserving outstanding cultural sites. Its success led to other safeguarding campaigns such as saving Venice and its lagoon in Italy and the archaeological ruins at Mohenjo-daro in Pakistan and restoring the Borobudur temple compounds in Indonesia. Consequently, UNESCO initiated with the help of the International Council on Monuments and Sites ICOMOS the preparation of a draft convention on the protection of cultural heritage. Linking the protection of cultural and natural heritages, the idea of combining conservation of cultural sites with those of nature comes from the United States of America. A White House conference in Washington DC in 1965 called for a World Heritage Trust that would stimulate international cooperation to protect the world's superb natural and scenic areas and historic sites for the present and the future of the entire world citizenry. In 1968, the International Union for Conservation of Nature IUCN developed similar proposals for its members. These proposals were presented to the 1972 United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm. Eventually, a single text was agreed upon by all parties concerned. The Convention concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage was adopted by the General Conference of UNESCO on 16th November 1972. The same General Conference adopted on 16th November 1972 the recommendation concerning the protection at national level of the cultural and natural heritage. By regarding heritage as both cultural and natural, the Convention reminds us of the ways in which people interact with nature and of the fundamental need to preserve the balance between the two. Benefits of ratification. The overarching benefit of ratifying the World Heritage Convention is that of belonging to an international community of appreciation and concern for universally significant properties that embody a world of outstanding examples of cultural diversity and natural wealth. The states parties to the convention, by joining hands to protect and cherish the world's natural and cultural heritage, express a shared commitment to preserving our legacy for future generations. The prestige that comes from being a state party to the convention and having sites inscribed on the World Heritage List often serves as a catalyst to raising awareness for heritage preservation. A key benefit of ratification, particularly for developing countries, is access to the World Heritage Fund. Annually, about $4 million is made available to assist states parties in identifying, preserving and promoting World Heritage Sites. Emergency assistance may also be made available for urgent action to repair damage caused by human-made or natural disasters. In the case of sites included on the list of World Heritage in danger, the attention and the funds of both the national and the international community are focused on the conservation needs of these particularly threatened sites. Today, the World Heritage concept is so well understood that sites on the list are a magnet for international cooperation and may thus receive financial assistance for heritage conservation projects from a variety of sources. Sites inscribed on the World Heritage list also benefit from the elaboration and implementation of a comprehensive management plan that sets out adequate preservation measures and monitoring mechanisms. In support of these, experts offer technical training to the local site management team. Finally, the inscription of a site on the World Heritage list brings an increase in public awareness of the site and of its outstanding values, thus also increasing the tourist activities at the site. When these are well planned for and organized, respecting sustainable tourism principles, they can bring important funds to the site and to the local economy. The most significant feature of the 1972 World Heritage Convention is that it links together in a single document the concepts of nature conservation and the preservation of cultural properties. The convention recognizes the way in which people interact with nature and the fundamental need to preserve the balance between the two. World Heritage Movement and UNESCO. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, seeks to encourage the identification, protection and preservation of cultural and natural heritage around the world considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. This is embodied in an international treaty called the Convention Concerning the Protection of the World Cultural and Natural Heritage, adopted by UNESCO in 1972. UNESCO's World Heritage mission is to encourage countries to sign the World Heritage Convention and to ensure the protection of their natural and cultural heritage. Encourage states parties to the convention to nominate sites within their national territory for inclusion on the World Heritage list. Encourage states parties to establish management plans and set up reporting systems on the state of conservation of their World Heritage sites. Help states parties safeguard World Heritage properties by providing technical assistance and professional training. Provide emergency assistance for World Heritage sites in immediate danger. Support states parties public awareness building activities for World Heritage conservation. Encourage participation of local population in the preservation of their cultural and natural heritage. Encourage international cooperation in the conservation of our world's cultural and natural heritage. Let us study some details regarding Convention Concerning the Protection of the World Cultural and Natural Heritage. The General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization meeting in Paris from 17th October to 21st November 1972 at its 17th session, noting that the cultural heritage and the natural heritage are increasingly threatened with destruction not only by the traditional causes of decay, but also by changing social and economic conditions which aggravate the situation with even more formidable phenomena of damage or destruction. Considering that deterioration or disappearance of any item of the cultural or natural heritage constitutes a harmful impoverishment of the heritage of all the nations of the world. Considering that protection of this heritage at the national level often remains incomplete because of the scale of the resources which it requires and of the insufficient economic, scientific and technological resources of the country where the property to be protected is situated. Recalling that the constitution of the organization provides that it will maintain, increase and diffuse knowledge by assuring the conservation and protection of the world's heritage and recommending to the nations concerned the necessary international conventions. Considering that the existing international conventions, recommendations and resolutions concerning cultural and natural property demonstrate the importance for all the people of the world of safeguarding this unique and irreplaceable property to whatever people it may belong. Considering that parts of the cultural or natural heritage are of outstanding interest and therefore need to be preserved as part of the world heritage of mankind as a whole. Considering that in view of the magnitude and gravity of the new dangers threatening them, it is incumbent on the international community as a whole to participate in the protection of the cultural and natural heritage of outstanding universal value by the granting of collective assistance, which although not taking the place of action by the state concerned, will serve as an efficient complement thereto. Considering that it is essential for this purpose to adopt new provisions in the form of a convention establishing an effective system of collective protection of the cultural and natural heritage of outstanding universal value organized on a permanent basis and in accordance with modern scientific methods. Having decided at its 16th session that this question should be made the subject of an international convention, adopted this 16th day of November 1972 this convention. What is cultural heritage? Monuments, architectural works, works of monumental sculpture and painting, elements of structures of an archaeological nature, inscriptions, cave dwellings and combinations of features which are of outstanding universal value from the point of view of history, art or science. Groups of separate or connected buildings which because of their architecture, their homogeneity or their place in the landscape are of outstanding universal value from the point of view of history, art or science. Sites, works of man or the combined works of nature and man, and areas including archaeological sites which are of outstanding universal value from the historical, aesthetic, ethnological or anthropological point of view. Now, what is natural heritage? Natural features consisting of physical and biological formations or groups of such formations which are of outstanding universal value from the aesthetic or scientific point of view. Geological and physiographical formations and precisely delimited areas which constitute the habitat of threatened species of animals and plants of outstanding universal value from the point of view of science or conservation. Natural sites or precisely delineated natural areas of outstanding universal value from the point of view of science, conservation or natural beauty. National protection and international protection of the cultural and natural heritage. As per the Article 4 of the Convention, each state party to this convention recognizes that the duty of ensuring the identification, protection, conservation, presentation and transmission to future generations of the cultural and natural and situated on its territory belongs primarily to that state. It will do all it can do to this end to the utmost of its own resources and where appropriate with any international assistance and cooperation, in particular financial, artistic, scientific and technical, which it may be able to obtain as per Article 5 of the Convention. It ensures that effective and active measures are taken for the protection, conservation and presentation of the cultural and natural heritage situated on its territory. Each state party to this convention endeavours in so far as possible as appropriate for each country. A. To adopt a general policy which aims to give the cultural and natural heritage a function in the life of the community and to integrate the protection of the heritage into comprehensive planning programs. B. To set up within its territories where such services do not exist, one or more services for the protection, conservation and presentation of the cultural and natural heritage with an appropriate staff and possessing the means to discharge their functions. C. To develop scientific and technical studies and research and to work out such operating methods as will make the state capable of counteracting the dangers of that threaten its cultural or natural heritage. D. To take the appropriate legal, scientific, technical, administrative and financial measures necessary for the identification, protection, conservation, presentation and rehabilitation of this heritage. And E. To foster the establishment or development of national or regional centers for training in the protection, conservation and presentation of the cultural and natural heritage and to encourage scientific research in this field. Intergovernmental Committee for the Protection of the World Cultural and Natural Heritage. As per Article 8 of the Convention, an Intergovernmental Committee for the Protection of the Cultural and Natural Heritage of outstanding universal value called the World Heritage Committee is hereby established within the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. It shall be composed of 15 states parties to the convention, elected by states parties to the convention meeting in General Assembly during the ordinary session of the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The number of states members of the committee shall be increased to 21 as from the date of the ordinary session of the General Conference following the entry into force of this convention for at least 40 states. Election of members of the committee shall ensure an equitable representation of the different regions and cultures of the world. A representative of the International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, ICCROM, a representative of the International Council of Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS, and a representative of the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, to whom may be added. At the request of states parties to the convention meeting in General Assembly during the ordinary sessions of the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, representatives of other intergovernmental or non-governmental organizations with similar objectives may attend the meetings of the committee in an advisory capacity. As per Article 9 of the Convention, the term of office of states members of the World Heritage Committee shall extend from the end of the ordinary session of the General Conference during which they are elected until the end of its third subsequent ordinary session. The term of office of 1/3 of the members designated at the time of the first election shall, however, cease at the end of the first ordinary session of the General Conference following that at which they were elected. And the term of office of a further third of the members designated at the same time shall cease at the end of the second ordinary session of the General Conference following that at which they were elected. The names of these members shall be chosen by lot by the President of the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization after the first election. States members of the committee shall choose as their representatives persons qualified in the field of the cultural or natural heritage. As per Article 11 of the Convention, every state party to this convention shall, in so far as possible, submit to the World Heritage Committee an inventory of property forming part of the cultural and natural heritage situated in its territory and suitable for inclusion in the list provided for in paragraph 2 of this article. This inventory, which shall not be considered exhaustive, shall include documentation about the location of the property in question and its significance. On the basis of the inventories submitted by states in accordance with paragraph 1, the committee shall establish, keep up to date and publish under the title of World Heritage List a list of properties forming part of the cultural heritage and natural heritage as defined in articles 1 and 2 of this convention, which it considers as having outstanding universal value in terms of such criteria as it shall have established. An updated list shall be distributed at least every 2 years. The inclusion of a property situated in a territory, sovereignty or jurisdiction over which is claimed by more than one state shall in no way prejudice the rights of the parties to the dispute. The committee shall establish, keep up to date and publish whenever circumstances shall so require under the title of List of World Heritage in Danger. A list of the property appearing in the World Heritage List for the conservation of which major operations are necessary and for which assistance has been requested under this convention. This list shall contain an estimate of the cost of such operations. The list may include only such property forming part of the cultural and natural heritage as it threatened by serious and specific dangers such as the threat of disappearance caused by accelerated deterioration, large scale public or private projects or rapid urban or tourist development projects, destruction caused by changes in the use or ownership of the land, major alterations due to unknown causes, abandonment for any reason whatsoever, the outbreak or the threat of an armed conflict, calamities and cataclysms, serious fires, earthquakes, landslides, volcanic eruptions, changes in water level, floods and tidal waves. The committee may at any time, in case of urgent need, make a new entry in the list of World Heritage in Danger and publicize such entry immediately. The committee shall define the criteria on the basis of which a property belonging to the cultural or natural heritage may be included in either of the lists mentioned in paragraphs 2 and 4 of this article. Before refusing a request for inclusion in one of the two lists mentioned in paragraphs 2 and 4 of this article, the committee shall consult the state party in whose territory the cultural or natural property in question is situated. The committee shall, with the agreement of the states concerned, coordinate and encourage the studies and research needed for the drawing up of the lists referred to in paragraphs 2 and 4 of this article. Fund for the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage. As per article 15 of the convention, first, a fund for the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage of outstanding universal value called the World Heritage Fund is hereby established. Second, the fund shall constitute a trust fund in conformity with the provisions of the financial regulations of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Third, the resources of the fund consist of compulsory and voluntary contributions made by states parties to this convention, contributions, gifts or bequests which may be made by other states, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, other organizations of the United Nations system, particularly the United Nations Development Program or other intergovernmental organizations, public or private bodies or individuals. Third, any interest due on the resources of the fund. Fourth, funds raised by collections and receipts from events organized for the benefits of the fund. And fifth, all other resources authorized by the fund's regulations as drawn up by the World Heritage Committee. Fourth, contributions to the fund and other forms of assistance made available to the committee may be used only for such purposes as the committee shall define. The committee may accept contributions to be used only for a certain program or project, provided that the committee shall have decided on the implementation of such program or project. No political conditions may be attached to contributions made to the fund. As per Article 17 of the Convention, the states parties to this convention consider or encourage the establishment of national public and private foundations or associations whose purpose is to invite donations for the protection of the cultural and natural heritage. To conclude the topic, we can say that every community and society has a very precious heritage which has to be and can be transferred to next generation, and it is the responsibility of the civil society to transfer that heritage to next generation. With this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you.